Fight! Spread shot!
Doom has been many things over the years. A pioneering first-person shooter, an RPG, even a board game. But Mighty Doom is the first time this franchise has been cute. This cartoonish mobile roguelite starts out as a lively single-stick shooter as you march through demon-packed levels murdering adorable cacodemons and prowlers with pinchable cheeks. At least until a hellish difficulty spike clearly designed to bully you into spending real money on in-game power glory kills any desire to keep you playing. There's a fast-paced, delightfully gory game in here, but it's chained to a mountain of free-to-play garbage that leeches the fun out of the experience once you reach a certain point. The result is a monetized nightmare that feels less like Doom and more like Candy Crush Saga with Hell Priests. You control your Doomslayer using an on-screen joystick, but shooting is automatic. That means your main job is to move around the arena-like stages, avoiding enemies, projectiles, and environmental dangers like spikes and saw blades. You also have a couple of slots for special weapons like a rocket launcher and BFG that you can deploy with the press of a button after a cooldown period. The touchscreen controls aren't super precise, which becomes a problem when the screen is filled with enemies and bullets later on, but they're mostly adequate in earlier levels. As a roguelite, you start each run with only the persistent gear you've equipped between levels, but you'll earn lots of temporary upgrades as you slay demons mid-run to increase your combat capabilities. This is incredibly empowering, as towards the end of the run you might be double firing spread shot rounds that bounce off walls and ricochet from one enemy to the next, while lobbing grenades with upgraded splash damage. These upgrades go away at the end of each run, but they make Mighty Doom exciting and rewarding on a moment-to-moment basis. Most levels are made up of 40 stages roughly the size of tennis courts, with bosses to take down every 10.
Baron of Hell!
Bosses are big, souped-up versions of standard enemies like imps, soldiers, revenants, and prowlers, but they have their own unique attacks and patterns, so they feel fresh. At least the first few times you encounter them. The enemy variety in the levels mostly works well too, with weaker pawn-like foes up front, sturdier tank enemies in the middle, and ranged opponents in the back. Your demon slaying runs are accompanied by a heavy metal soundtrack that sounds like it was pulled straight from the recent Doom games too, giving the whole thing a boost of intensity as the announcer growls the name of your upgrades in a delightfully over-the-top manner.
Headshot!
Take all that together, and Mighty Doom can be a lot of fun in the first few hours. There's always that draw to start another run to see if you can get closer to beating whatever level you died on. During those early hours, you can make progress at a reasonable rate as well. You might die on a stage 10 boss, but then be able to make it several stages deeper the next time after upgrading your Slayer between runs.
Slayer health critical.
Somewhere in level 4 is when you'll hit a steep difficulty spike that halts progress like a BFG blast to the chest.
Slayer injured.
Two things happen. First, the enemies become noticeably more powerful, draining big chunks of your health with a single blow.
Slayer injured.
On top of that, the number of enemies on screen in some levels increases to the point where it can be difficult to tell what's even happening. Projectiles fly at you from all directions, Pinkies and Lost Souls charge in from off-screen, and Revenants drop down to lob missiles at your face. It's not uncommon to see your health bar draining and have no idea what's even hitting you. That means you'll likely struggle to make any headway without either a huge amount of grinding or some in-app purchases using real money to upgrade your equipment. For example, spending $15 can help you get through level 4, but not much further. Level 5 introduces waves of enemies, while also giving those enemies another enormous power boost. That's when Mighty Doom starts to feel downright unfair, and the emphasis it puts on the purchasable loot boxes means the difficulty feels less like a balanced miscalculation and more like an unspoken paywall. The only way to progress is either to spend weeks throwing yourself against this frustrating and repetitive challenge, or an alarming amount of money to make it slightly more realistic. Our reviewer didn't actually reach the credits before the time of this review because the task was just so wildly unreasonable. No matter which path you choose, you aren't going to get far without jumping through even more free-to-play hoops, and Mighty Doom has free-to-play hoops galore. You have an avalanche of currencies to keep track of, unique keys for each of the 8 equipment types, energy, coins, and crystals, the last 2 of which can be purchased with real money. You have to spend 5 energy to start a run, and you can only carry 20, which means you can't dive into another run when you want to. Your energy replenishes slowly over time, but of course you can speed it up by spending crystals. You can also spend crystals to buy loot boxes to increase your Slayer's power, but the number of crystals required to open a loot box with a chance of containing a rare or epic item is steep.
Choose your upgrade.
Each piece of gear can be upgraded dozens of times by spending coins and equipment keys, but individual improvements are barely noticeable. Coins can be used to upgrade a random core stat, or mastery, but after hitting the difficulty spike, these power boosts feel inadequate as well. Other monetization options include purchasing new Slayer skins and weapon skins, using either crystals or real money directly depending on the item. You can even spend crystals to revive your Slayer once mid-run, and to get even better gear as you play, you can purchase a battle pass for $6.99. Basically, whatever aggravating monetization scheme you may have heard about in the last decade is probably here.
Multi-shot.
The one alternative to spending in-game currency is watching ads.
All right, guys, take care.
You can watch an ad to avoid paying to revive a limited amount of times. You can also watch an ad to open a very basic type of loot crate containing coins or common gear. And while you can earn currencies just by playing, it's never enough to make much of a difference after that level 4 difficulty spike. No matter what you do, you'll likely never have the currency needed to make progress at a reasonable pace unless you are willing to open your wallet. Trying to wrap your head around all the free-to-play junk surrounding the basic game feels like studying for the bar exam. Sure, some of this monetization is necessary, or at least accepted as common practice for many mobile games these days, especially free ones, but buying skins or Battle Pass in Fortnite or Marvel Snap feels different. These games are centered around multiplayer, and showing off your favorite cosmetic upgrades at least seems to serve a purpose. Plus, they're easy to ignore if that's not your thing. Mighty Doom is a single-player game, so you don't have anyone to impress with your new Slayer skins except yourself. And paying for power upgrades to complete a level you're stuck on due to an artificially punishing difficulty spike is the very definition of pay to win.
Slayer health critical.
There is a devilishly fun roguelite hiding in Mighty Doom, but the way it's buried under all the most egregious money-making schemes in mobile gaming is hugely disappointing. The first few hours are enjoyable, as monsters pose an entertaining challenge you can satisfyingly overcome, and it would be easy to recommend if Bethesda had balanced all 9 levels to match. But it's not long before a super-powered difficulty spike means your Slayer's defense and damage output just can't keep up. At least not without opening your wallet. Even when you do, this invisible paywall and the free-to-play speed bumps that accompany it turn Mighty Doom into a teeth-grindingly frustrating experience that makes deleting the app entirely a more appealing option than paying to upgrade your Slayer enough to progress. For even more repeatable runs, check out our reviews of Meet Your Maker,
Only one thing matters.
or Ravenbound. And for everything else, stick with IGN.